Good morning, everybody. How are we all today? It's Friday, yay! How are we all feeling? It's lovely and sunny out there again today, so I'm feeling okay today. Although we have to bear in mind, it's Friday the 13th, 2020. What on earth could be in store for us today? Hopefully, it's going to be kind to us because we've had one hell of a year, haven't we? So yeah, I don't know. Is anyone superstitious about those sort of things? Friday the 13th. I'm not really. I can't say that I've ever had really anything terrible happen on Friday the 13th. But yeah, it's in the back of my mind that it is Friday the 13th today. So let me know what you guys think. Is it something that you're superstitious about, or have you ever had anything bad happen to you on Friday the 13th? Let me know. Okay, so before we start our reading today, I just wanted to have a little quick chat with you to talk about World Kindness Day, which is today. Being kind is such an important thing, isn't it? You know, it costs nothing, and being kind to someone can really be everything. If someone's having a real bad day or, you know, just struggling. I think the thing is, we never really know what's going on behind closed doors. So being kind is just the nicest thing you can be. So I thought I'd just start off this morning. I've got 7 ways to start making kindness the norm in your daily life. So 7 little tips that we can do, which are really easy, which can just really change, some people's days. So number 1 is send an uplifting text to a friend or a family member. And that's really lovely. Imagine if you just woke up and, maybe was feeling a bit down and you got a lovely text from a friend or, a family member. That could really sort of make your day, couldn't it? And number 2 is let that car in front of you merge into traffic with a smile on your face. Now, sometimes that's a bit harder said than done, isn't it? If you drive and, people are cutting in front of you and whatnot, sometimes it's really easy to lose your hair over it and get cross at people. But, maybe once a day, just let them in and smile. And, that could bring a smile to their face as well. Number 3, include intentional moments of kindness, laughter and delight into your daily routine. That's a lovely one. Number 4, go slightly outside of your comfort zone at least once a day to make someone smile. Number 5, share a compliment with a friend or a co-worker. I love that one. It's so easy to just compliment someone, and I think especially women complimenting women is a real lovely thing to do, because so often there's so much competition. I'm always one, if I see a friend or someone wearing something nice, I'll always say, you look lovely, or your hair looks lovely. And I don't know about you, but if someone compliments you back like that, it really does make you feel good about yourself, which is a lovely way, not only just to start your day, anytime throughout the day to receive a compliment. Number 6, reach out to a family member you haven't spoken to in a while. That's a good one. And number 7, treat someone to a cup of coffee, a friend, a stranger, or even yourself. So they're all 7 really easy tips, really easy things you can do to just be kind and just, be nice to people. Because like I say, none of us know each other's struggles. And although that person may seem very outgoing and happy and bubbly on the outside, perhaps on the inside, it's not quite as rosy and maybe they're struggling. So just by you being kind could be the difference to their day. So yeah, anyway, so it's Friday the 13th, 2020, World Kindness Day. Let's see what today brings. I'm feeling very hopeful that we're all going to have a lovely day, especially while the sun's still shining. Okay, so for those of you who have joined me from Tuesday and Wednesday or Thursday this week, you will know we're reading Calm the F Down by Sarah Knight. I'm really, really enjoying reading this book. It's one that a lovely friend of mine bought me. And yeah, it's a bit of a self-help book with some humour in there. And it just gives you really positive ways if you suffer with anxiety, whether it be, high anxiety or just, sort of low anxiety every now and again. It covers all different areas of how you may be feeling, and just giving you different strategies and coping mechanisms, which I just think is really, really handy. Great for us all to know. So with that, I'm going to carry on from where we left off yesterday. So get yourselves comfy, and I shall start. Let's be real. A frequent precursor to the freak-out phases is an inability to accept reality. In one sense, you may be worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, which means it is literally not yet real. A what if exists in your imagination. Only when it becomes real is it a problem you can acknowledge, accept, and address. Or you may be freaking out because you can't force the outcome you want, e.g. one that is not realistic. I'll go over that more in part 3, in the section aptly titled, Identify Your Realistic Ideal Outcome. Meanwhile, chew on this. The path from what ifs and worrying to calming the F down is a straight line from things that exist in your imagination to things that exist in reality, and then accepting those things as reality. Maybe reread that a few times just to be sure you're smelling what I'm cooking. In fact, see the next page for the graphic you can photocopy and keep in your wallet, or bring down to Spike at the Sweet Needle so he can tattoo it across your chest for daily reaffirmation. So I'll just show you the little. So worrying, things that exist in your imagination. Things that exist in reality, accepting those things as reality, calming the F down. And just like that, you've nearly calmed down. All that remains to complete step 1 of the no worries method is to discard that unrealistic, unproductive worry like the good little mental declutterer I know you can be. To do that, you have a couple of options. Option 1, just let it go. You still think it's easier said than done? Fine. But I encourage you to consider everything we've talked about so far and apply your new tools and perspective on a case-by-case basis. For example, if you're working those storm categories like I taught you, you should be able to reduce your worry load immediately and significantly. If something is highly unlikely to happen, why are you worrying about it? And if it's far off in the distance, why are you worrying about it now? Oh, and is this something you can control? No. Then there's no reason you should be spending your precious time, energy, and money on it at all. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Like maybe the kind of stuff you should already know. Well, I think you do know it. Somewhere in your palpitating heart of hearts, I'm just helping you access that knowledge. No shame in a little teamwork. I found that in times of stress, people can't always make the common sense connection that others can make for them. If others are granted a reasonable deadline and unlimited Doritos to sit down at their laptop and spell it all out. It's a symbiotic relationship, yours and mine. Which is to say, I'm not at all surprised that you couldn't just let go of any of your worries before you picked up this book. But I'd be really surprised if by now you just can't let go, like a bunch of them. Option 2, Houdini that stuff. Unlike Bryan Cranston, whose character starts out enraged, but, sorry, my reading's just awful this morning. I'm going to start that bit again. Unlike Bryan Cranston, whose character starts out enraged by, but eventually comes to like the guy who's trying to marry his on-screen daughter in the criminally underrated movie, Why Him, you cannot count on becoming happy about the thing that right now has you very upset. But you can become happy, or calm, or proactive, right now about something else entirely, which in turn causes you to stop worrying about the original thing. Ta-da! I call this technique slate of mind. It's like when I'm freaking out about a deadline, so I go for a bracing dip in the pool to clear my head. That doesn't change the fact of 5,000 words being due in somebody's inbox tomorrow. But it does temporarily change my focus from I'm a fraud and you will never write another syllable to, oh, that feels nice. Just like sleight of hand enables a magician to perform his thrilling act, sleight of mind is how we will make your worries disappear, at least temporarily, and maybe even for good. And don't come at me with that's cheating. I promised you tricks all the way back on page 1. You should really start taking me at my word. Now, recall, if you would, the flip sides of the 4 faces of freaking out. Anxious, focus. Sad, repair with self-care. Angry, peace out with perspective. Avoiding, act up. This is where the magic happens, people. I now present you with a collection of simple, elegant tricks you can tuck up your voluminous sleeve for when the worrying gets tough and the tough need to stop worrying. How to stop being anxious about something. The what ifs are multiplying on their radar screen. Your nerves are frayed, your teeth are ground to nubs, and you can't stop overthinking whatever stuff is about to or has gone down. You need to focus. Give anxiety the fingers. When I'm anxious, I walk around the house wiggling my digits like I'm playing air piano or doing low-key jazz hands. My husband calls them my decluttering fingers, since they always signal a prelude to something semi-manic tidying. But in addition to clearing out the kitchen cabinets or denuding the coffee table of old magazines, what I'm doing is temporarily channeling my anxiety into something productive and, to me, comforting. You may not be as into tidying as therapy, but surely there's another hands-on task you enjoy that you could turn to when you feel your anxious face settling in around the temples. Perhaps industriously restringing your guitar, mending a pair of pants, or repairing the teeny tiny trundle bed in your kid's dollhouse. Get down with OPP. Other people's problems, that is. Maybe you don't have an on-call therapist, but you've got friends, family, neighbours, and the guy down at the post office with the beard that looks like it rehomes geese who got lost on their way south for the winter. Chat them up. Ask your sister how she's doing and listen to her stuff. Release some of your anxiety by giving her advice that you should probably be taking yourself. It's harder to stay anxious about any particular thing when you don't allow yourself the mental space to dwell on it. And a darn good way to accomplish that is by filling said space with conversation, human interaction, and other people's problems. How do you think I stay so calm these days? I spend all year giving you advice. Tonight you, meet tomorrow you. This seems like a good place to address the tarantula in the room, which is that when anxiety is keeping you up at night, you may be able to name your problem. Good job. But you can't necessarily solve it in the moment. I get that, which is why I want to take a moment to introduce you to one of my favourite mental magician and assistant duos. Tonight you and tomorrow you. Let's say it's currently 3 a.m. on Friday and you can't sleep because on Tuesday you made an offhand comment to your co-worker Ruth that you're worried she may have interpreted as an insult, even though she didn't give any indication of such at the time, and even though not one single word that came out of your mouth could possibly, by any sentient being, be thought of as criticism. Still, what if? Well, it's 3 a.m. Then tonight you can't call Ruth and you can't tell her you hope she wasn't offended by that thing you said and can't feel better about it when she replies, "What? I don't even remember you saying that. So obviously I was not offended, you silly goose." But tonight you can set tomorrow you up for success by getting some goddamn sleep. You may think it's impossible to fall asleep when you're anxious about making things right with Ruth, or when your to-do list is scrolling through your mind on an endless loop. But hear me out. This might be the single most useful nugget in this entire compendium of calm. First, think of the problem in terms of what we've discussed thus far. Falling asleep is the more urgent issue, so it should be your priority, right? Furthermore, it's the only part of this equation you have some control over, and it's one you can actually solve, correct? This is reality. Can you accept it? But not so fast. I can smell your annoyance from here. A heady musk of F you with a hint of don't patronise me, lady. Do you feel like you're being bullied into doing something you simply cannot do, even though you know it's good for you? I get that too. For whatever reason, sometimes taking good, solid advice from other people is impossible. Definitely an occupational hazard for moi. So let's look at your problem another way. Say through the lens of my early 20s, a time with my then boyfriend, now husband's, entities for me to hydrate after every third cocktail felt more like a scolding than a suggestion. And when, even though I knew he was right, I didn't like feeling pressured, condescended to, or pre-shamed for tomorrow's hangover. Nope, there was no better way to activate the "you can't make me" face than to tell Sarah and I, a few vodka and tonics in, that she should drink some water. Did I regret it in the morning? Yes. Did I take his advice next time? No. It was a vicious cycle. Then, one blessed day, a friend introduced me to the concept of a spacer, and everything changed. This was not a stupid glass of stupid water that somebody else told me to drink. No, it's a spacer. It has a fun name, and I get to control my own narrative by sidling up to the bar and ordering one. My spacer, my choice. Where the hell, you may now be thinking, is she going with this? Well, besides having just introduced you to the second most useful nugget in this entire book, I would argue that deciding to have oneself a spacer is similar to deciding to go to sleep, in terms of being in a state where you know what you should be doing, but don't appreciate being told to do it. Intoxicated is quite similar to whipped into an anxious, insomniac frenzy, is it not? I take your point, but what if I just can't fall asleep, even though I agree it's the best for me? Good, I'm glad we're getting somewhere, because I think, based on extensive personal experience, that you can drift off to dreamland if you approach the task differently than you have been thus far. If you take control of the narrative, if you treat going to sleep like ordering a spacer or checking off an item that's scrolling on the to-do list, set your mind to accomplishing it, and therefore to feeling accomplished instead of feeling like a very tired failure. But you're not going to be there to remind me of this helpful nugget every night when my brain goes into overdrive. And even if you were, you still sound kind of smugly self-satisfied about the whole thing, to be honest. Noted. But remember, tonight you and tomorrow you. They've been waiting in the wings for the grand finale. One night I was tossing and turning like one of those Chinese fortune-telling fish. My husband looked at me and said, "Tonight, Sarah's job is going to sleep. Tomorrow, Sarah can deal with this stuff tomorrow." So I thought about it that way, and I gave tonight me her marching orders, and it worked. Maybe he adapted it from the spacer trick when he saw how well that penetrated my defences. Or maybe I married a goddamn wizard. But I don't care either way, because ever since, I've been able to reframe the "I can't fall asleep" conversation with myself and shift my focus from not being able to do the only thing I so badly want to doing the only thing I can do. And you know, I've always trusted tomorrow me to handle tomorrow's tasks, assuming she gets enough shut-eye. Now, I recognise that it's tonight's me's job to get her to the starting line and find fettle. Talk about slate of mind. Yep, definitely married a wizard. But hey, you don't have to take it from us. Take it from tonight you. Tomorrow you will thank you tomorrow. Other ways to reduce anxiety that I didn't invent, but I have known to work. Deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Yoga, bubble baths, counting slowly to 100, magnesium supplements, adult colouring books. How to stop being sad about something. What's another word for grieving, blue, mopey, forlorn, despondent, and depressed? Hurting. You're hurting. So you need to heal. Grant yourself a reasonable amount of time and energy to be sad about whatever stuff has made you worried and weepy. Then, crate your emotional puppies and stave off the prolonged wallowing with a shot of self-care. Laughter is the best medicine. Much like calm down, the phrase, turn that frown upside down, is advice not often well received by a person mid-freak out. I know that, but I'll say it anyway because that stuff works. For example, when I'm feeling utterly dejected, a certain someone's patented CNC Music Factory tribute dance lip sync always brings me back from the brink. If something has you down, seek help from things that reliably cheer you up. Cat pictures, videos of people coming out of anaesthesia, perhaps an aptly termed feel-good movie. Anything in the pitch perfect genre applies. Even if this trick stops you worrying for only the length of one song, in my case, things that make you go, you've stopped, haven't you? Progress. You're in for a treat. When someone else is sad, be they grieving or recuperating, you might stop by with some prepared food to get them over the hump. Casserole, cookies, a fruit basket. Why not show yourself the same kindness? Your treat doesn't have to be food-based. Some of us like to eat our feelings. Some of us prefer to have them massaged away by a bulky Salvadoran named Javier. So do unto yourself as you would do unto others, and trade those worries for a trip to Cupcakes R Us or an hour of shoulder work from Yabby. Yummy either way. How to stop being angry about something. Exhaling, bitchily shouting, shut the F up every 5 minutes and jabbing a broom through the hole in the fence that separates your yard from the neighbour's new pet rooster is one way to pass the time. But it's not a good long-term use of the freak out funds. Trust me on this. Instead, calm down by redirecting that time and energy into more peaceful pursuits. Work it out. I said I wouldn't make you get physical with your mental decluttering, but sometimes I fib. Like the lady who waxed my bikini area for the first time ever and told me the worst part was over. And then she did the middle. But I digress. Serotonin, known as the happiness hormone, can be naturally boosted in many ways, including by exercise. But that doesn't have to mean dragging your ass to the gym per se. Sure, you can run out your rage on the treadmill or crunch your way to calm. If that works for you, so be it. Even I sometimes enjoy a low-impact stroll on the beach to clear my mind of roostercidal thoughts. Got a stairwell in your office? Walk up and down it until you no longer want to tear your boss a new asshole with his own typing. Empty lot down the street? Cartwheels. Empty lot down the street under cover of night? Naked cartwheels. Plot your revenge. Hopefully they won't revoke my guru card for this one, but let's just say you live downstairs from Carl and his all-night drug parties, and every morning your anger rises just as he and his crew finally drop off into a cracked-out slumber. Instead of seething into your dark roast, you might consider perking up by mentally cataloguing the ways in which you could repay your neighbour's kindness. You don't have to follow through. Merely thinking about the mayhem you could visit upon your enemies is a terrific mood booster. How to stop avoiding something. If anxiety sends you into overthinking, overwhelmed, overstimulation mode, then avoidance sends you in the exact opposite direction. Your worries have you paralysed with inaction, indecision, and inability to deal. You may think you're saving freak out funds, with all this inactivity, but you're actually wasting a lot of time that could otherwise be spent shoveling stuff off your plate. It's the difference between napping as healthy self-care and napping as unhealthy coping mechanism. Let's not ruin napping for ourselves, okay? Instead, try these active alternatives on for size. Get alarmed. If you're putting something off, say having the talk with your teenage son, use the alarm feature on your smartphone or watch to remind you about it 10 times a day, until you'd rather unroll a condom onto a banana than listen to that infernal jingle jangle one more time. Even if you chicken out yet again, you'll have forced yourself to acknowledge the situation with every beep of your alarm, and that's half the battle. Actually, if you've been paying attention, it's 1/3 of the battle. The middle third is accepting that you can't control a 15-year-old's libido, and the final third is addressing the part that you can control, teaching safe sex with prophylactics and phallic produce. You're welcome. Propose a trade. If you're the ostrichen type, I bet you're avoiding a few things at once. Oh, I'm right. Funny how that works. Well, just like focusing on one anxiety-inducing storm at a time helps clear the deck of another set of worries, you could make a deal with yourself that you only get to avoid one thing at a time. For example, if you're avoiding going to the doctor to get that suspicious mole checked out, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to also avoid balancing your checkbook. And while you might be avoiding each of these activities because you additionally wish to avoid getting bad news, I should point out that closing your eyes, plugging your ears, and singing na 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 never stopped a hurricane from making landfall. And it's not going to halt the storm of skin cancer or bankruptcy. Confront the fear behind the worry now, so at least you have a chance to deal with it if it turns out to be warranted. Is sleight of mind a little sneaky? Maybe. But you have to admit it's hard to freak out while you're enjoying yourself, whether that's laughing at a silly movie, savouring a tasty treat, or focusing on getting every last drop of clam juice out of the bottle and absorbed deep into a Subaru's upholstery. And if you ostriches took my advice and sprang into action, well, you may still be worrying a little as you sit in your dermatologist's waiting room, but you're also not avoiding it anymore. I call that a win. Secret option C. Just let it go, and sleight of mind are two excellent paths forward to a calmer, happier you. Highly recommended. But depending on the person and worry and related storm in question, these two methods alone are not always enough. I understand, and I'm not here to set you up for failure. If I wanted to do that, I would have called the book How to Reason with a Toddler. As such, it's time for me to make a confession. Despite its powerful cross-branding with my not sorry method from the life-changing magic of not giving an F, and a very strong hashtag, the no worries method, may be a slight misnomer. No worries, like actually zero, ever? That's probably not strictly possible. Sometimes your probometer is in the shop and your worries remain omnipresent and all-consuming. Sometimes you really just can't stop worrying or focus on other things. It's okay, we can work with that. Much like the responsible procrastination I detailed in Get Your Stuff Together, or the good selfish, discussed in You Do You, there is such thing as useful worrying. You might engage in it in order to prevent the thing you're worried about from ever happening, as with a Category 1 highly unlikely storm that could be blown out to sea with a preemptive strike on your part. Or you might do some useful worrying to help yourself be in better shape when the storm lands, as in the case of a Category 5 inevitable. There's bound to be a lot less cleanup if you've adequately prepped the metaphorical house and grounds. P.S. Have you made that dermatologist appointment yet? Wait, both of those sound like dealing with it. Did you skip ahead? Good on you for paying attention, but I really try not to skip ahead. It sets a bad example for my readers. No, what I'm about to teach you isn't quite dealing with it, which we will cover in the aptly titled Part 3, Deal With It. This is sort of an in-between step. Ladies and gentlemen of the worry, I give you productive, helpful, effective worrying. Phew. Up to this point, our goal has been to discard worries about stuff you can't control, saving your time, energy, and money for dealing with the stuff you can. We've been conserving freak-out funds. That's one way to do it. If you can't bring yourself to discard your worries altogether, another way to calm down is to convert those worries into productive, beneficial action, ensuring that any freak-out funds you dole out in advance of a storm are spent wisely. They will at least help prepare you for surviving it and, at best, help prevent it altogether. That's what makes it productive, helpful, and effective worrying. The Orson acronym is just a side benefit. Here's how it plays out. Once a storm has been classified and prioritised, the no worries method dictates that you ask yourself, can I control it? If the answer is no, ideally you accept that you can't control it and discard said worry. That's step one, calm the F down. If the answer is yes, I can control it, then yay. You may proceed directly to step two, deal with it, organising your response. However, if the answer is no, I can't control it, but I also can't stop worrying about it or distract myself with other things, then it's time to do some productive, helpful, effective worrying. As an example, let's examine a perpetually outlying storm offered by an anxious parent in my Twitter feed. What if I mess up my kids and they turn them into bad people? This is a big, complex worry that causes many parents low-level anxiety every day, plus occasional bouts of hardcore freaking out. Challenge accepted. First, I absolutely understand why lots of them might not be able just to let it go. And I understand that it might be hard to employ a slate of mind and focus on other things while parenting. In fact, maybe you shouldn't get too distracted, especially at the playground. Accidents happen. But I humbly suggest that what you could do if you're constantly worried about messing up your kids and turning them into bad people, and you are unable to let that worry go, is to spend your time, energy, and money on being the best parent you personally can be. You don't have complete control over whether your kid turns out to be a bad person. At some point, that's on them. But you can indulge your worries and, at the same time, contribute to the cause by engaging in child-rearing tactics that are objectively proven to result in positives, such as reading to your kids, telling your kids you love them and are proud of them, and teaching them to say please and thank you, and not to kick sand at me on the beach. At least if you're taking these actions that are not shifting your focus via slate of mind, but rather are directing related to the worry at hand, you may still be yanking at your metaphorical yarn, but you also know what you're doing. So you also know you're doing what you can to help your kids become good people. That's Phew in a nutshell. Not the worst advice you've ever received, if I do say so myself. It's also not the first time I've given it here in this very book. Remember the really cool hat guy? That was Phew. You just didn't know it yet. You can't stop worrying, fine. Worry away, but make it count for something. Sending a storm out to sea. As someone who once sat glued to the Weather Channel for 10 days as 2 Category 5 hurricanes charted a collision course with my home on a fragile Caribbean peninsula, I know there is no greater relief than watching a seemingly invincible monster storm veer away at the 11th hour. But of course, those near misses were due to sheer luck. As Puerto Ricans know all too well, both Mother Nature and certain world leader are capricious when it comes to visiting chaos and destruction upon people. When it's a storm on the radar, however, and a low probability one at that, you may be able to engineer a downgrade. Sometimes you can gin that probometer readout from a 2 or 1 down to a harmless little tropical clone that potters off the grid before you can say, I presided over and directly contributed to the worst humanitarian crisis America has seen since the Civil War. There are 2 different ways to prevent an already unlikely storm from making landfall. 1, take action. 2, do nothing. Each has its place. Deciding to implement one or the other is simply a matter of recognizing what you can control and then acting or not acting accordingly. For example, what if I spend thousands of dollars to paint my house and on a large scale the color turns out to be ugly? Action you could take. They have apps and online simulators for this. Do your research. Same goes for drastic haircuts, by the way. Outcome, no surprises. What if my wife doesn't like the gift I bought her for our 25th anniversary? Action you could take. You're so sweet. Ask your wife's most trusted friend to help you shop or to slyly solicit ideas from a BFF over coffee. Also, diamonds. Outcome, happy wife, happy life. What if I get seasick on my first ever boat ride, which also happens to be my best chance to impress a client on his private catamaran? Action you could take. Drama mine for the win. Outcome, your cookies remain untossed. Oh, Dramamine. I'm guessing that's a American drug. Anyway, in each of the above scenarios, the total storm is unlikely to evolve. But if you know you're going to be worrying about it anyway, you can take action to prevent it. If you like that shade of blue on a small scale, chances are you'll like it at its split level size, but it pays to make sure beforehand. If you've been married for 25 years, you probably have a pretty good sense of your beloved's taste, but calling for reinforcements can only improve your chances of a tearful, oh my God, how did you know? Maybe improve your chances of a little something else too, if you know what I mean. And not everyone experiences motion sickness, but there's no point in finding out you're susceptible the moment you're attempting to close a deal. Baths on clients don't look good on your LinkedIn profile. Sure, these happen to be somewhat low-level problems with fairly easy, self-evident solutions, but that's what made them unlikely to begin with. If you're the kind of person who worries about unlikely stuff happening, you just gained the perspective to wipe a few category 1s and 2s off the screen before breakfast. Not too shabby. Your other option to stave off a storm is to do nothing at all. Yes, I know, I've previously advocated for taking action in order to prevent a freak out, but now we're talking about the problem itself, not your reaction to it. If you can blow the storm out to sea by taking 0 action, the freak out is rendered moot anyway. Like, let's say you're concerned about the prospect of an unwanted pregnancy. If you use birth control regularly and properly, then what if I get pregnant should already be a category 1, highly unlikely. But if you really can't afford room for error, I know just the thing to nip that fetus in the bud: abstinence. I'm talking about abstinence, guys. Jesus. If you care as much about sex as I do about skiing, then doing nothing totally works. Grown away, but it's true, isn't it? In fact, there's really no limit to the things you could never do if you never want to risk a potential bad outcome, as long as whatever you're giving up is worth the sacrifice. For example, you could never go canoeing so that you never flip over in a canoe and drown. There are other ways to transport oneself across water, like bridges. You could never handle fireworks so that you never get into a freak Roman candle accident. You know what they say, it's all fun and games until someone has to be fitted for a glass eye. Or you could never agree to retrieve the sacred Sivalinga stone for the villagers of Mayapur and therefore never be forced to drink the blood of Kali and almost die at the hands of a prepubescent Maharaja in a faraway temple of doom. Easy peasy. Are you sensing a little sarcasm here? Good, you sense correctly. Because what's not useful is never doing something because you're afraid of an outcome so unlikely in its own right that you'd actually be doing yourself a bigger disservice by avoiding the original thing entirely. Or, to put it another way, being crippled by anxiety is no way to live. Houston, we have an irrational fear. I'd like to treat you to a bonus what-if scenario that's near and dear to my own heart, and that might give you a new way of looking at something you may have long considered an insurmountable problem. Or this could be the point in the book where you snort derivatively, proclaim me an idiot, and go on your merry way. For the sake of an argument, let's imagine that you're traveling from New York to New Mexico, and you're worried that this Delta death blimp is destined to go down over the Great Lakes and take you and 114 others easy marks along with it. The first step towards starving off a freakout in Terminal A is to categorize the potential storm in question, dying in a plane crash, and acknowledge that it's not probable. To wit, the odds of dying in a plane crash are 1 in 11 million, which makes it less likely than being killed by a shark, 1 in 8 million, dying on a cruise ship, 1 in 6.25 million, or getting hit by lightning, 1 in 12,000. You're dealing with a category 1, highly unlikely here, no two ways about it. Furthermore, even if your 747 is destined to fall out of the sky like a drone operated by your drunk Uncle Ronnie at a Freemasons picnic, what are you going to do about it? Unless you were planning to abandon your current career to spend a couple of years in flight school and become a pilot, which you would have to overcome your fear of flying to do in the first place, you cannot control the situation. It is 100% out of your hands, which means what? That's right. It's a waste of time and energy to worry. If you still want to play devil's advocate, I suppose you could also control the situation by never flying anywhere ever. But then you should stop driving, riding, sailing, walking, or rollerblading anywhere too, because the probability of death goes way up the closer to Earth you travel. Let's stop talking about it. The thing is, I know that the irrational fear of flying, or irrational fear of anything for that matter, is very upsetting. I myself am terrified of air travel for all kinds of reasons that, when examined in the weak glow of the overhead light, do not hold up. So when I'm settled into seat 5A, staring down the barrel of cross-country hop to give a lecture at the Marriott corporate on getting your stuff together, I count this pernicious what if with a big old dose of, is there one single goddamn thing you can do to prevent this plane from exploding, falling apart, or dropping out of the sky? No. Then calm down and worry about something you can control, like writing out your speech, all professional, and putting together some index cards and then not spilling your miniature vodka tonic on them. I also treat this particular case of what ifs with 0.25 milligrams of Xanax, but that's beside the point. I didn't even have a Xanax prescription for the first 30 years of my life, and I still got on planes when I was feeling wicked anxious because it's just not logical or rational to avoid them for eternity. And as mentioned previously, I'm a very logical person and very rational person most of the time. Right, guys, I'm going to stop there. Enjoyed that again today. I hope you guys did. Thank you for joining me. So, yeah, it's Friday. Yeah, we're almost at the weekend, but we're on lockdown. So I'm going to try and spend this weekend getting some productive things done in my house, getting some DIY done, sorting out some bits of the kids that I've been putting off. So I'm going to try and make it a productive one. I hope Friday the 13th, 2020 is good to everyone. Let me know if you have anything funny happen or any, not so funny things. I can talk about them next week. So have a great day. Have a great weekend, guys, and I'll see you all again next week. Bye.